Hi, Paul. How you doing? How's things going? You enjoying this sunny weather?
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Morning, Warren. Yeah, I'm loving it. The lawn looks a bit. I say lawn. I mean the limited amount of grass I've got looks a bit sorry. But I was thinking it will bounce back. So yeah, I'm loving it. I was sat out yesterday evening in the outside, and it's just beautiful. Yeah, so I'm loving it. How about you?
Yeah, very much enjoying it. It makes the summer holidays a lot easier with kids. I'm not gonna lie, and the weather's good. You can always go out. You haven't got to think of these rainy day activities. So can't complain. Can't complain too much. A little bit of water wouldn't go amiss with it, but
Well, there's a lot. It's quite inefficient using a watering can, but it is better for the environment, I guess. So I'm prepared to tolerate
yeah.
that.
And what have you been up to this week? What have you been out and about doing, Paul?
Oh, Warren, I tell you what. Well, two things I want to mention from the past couple of weeks. But the past week, I was lucky enough that I was on proper holiday. So I took a week off, no laptop. I went with a bunch of friends cycling in France, and we went just across the channel. We went to Dieppe, and we cycled from Dieppe towards Paris, then back along the Seine and up the Normandy coast. And it was just fabulous, absolutely fabulous. The weather was amazing. It was pretty hot in places, but amazing. The company was brilliant. Really good mates. They had a good laugh. And I'd forgotten the importance of just taking a week off and just doing nothing work related, more or less. And so I feel quite energized and recharged by that experience, which was great. It was great.
Love that, Paul. Love that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I know you're quite, I think you're better than me at doing that sort of thing, but I really appreciated it.
Well, I'm glad you didn't take your laptop with you. I think you needed a holiday without your laptop because you've always got your laptop with you, I think, haven't you, when you go on these
Yeah,
trips? You
yeah,
can't do that. Got to
yeah.
because it is so easy just to flip up the laptop.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So that was one thing. And then the other thing, just going back 2 weeks, was I competed in the Surrey Masters Athletics, which is great fun. I mean,
Did you?
a bunch of older people on an athletics track, and incidentally, I did the 100 meters for the first time. Uh,
Yeah.
and I was watching Amy Hunt this morning because she got her European gold
Yes.
last night in Birmingham. So she ran 100 meters in 11 seconds. I did it in 15, which I think's not far away. I could bridge that gap. I think I could bridge. It's only 4 seconds. It's not a lot. So I'm hoping I'll bridge that. But what I noticed was in the middle of Wimbledon Park Athletics Club, in the middle of the track, they had 5 paddle courts. So the plot is thickening on our paddle versus tennis
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, demand appears to be insatiable at present for paddle courts. But I wonder at what point will supply catch up with or even overtake demand. So that's just one to watch. There's clearly an explosion taking place
Well, that's when the
in
price
paddle
going up.
courts.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So anyway, so that's my last couple of weeks doing nothing, nothing work wise, and noticing what's been going on in the world of athletics and paddle. Yeah, yeah. How about you? How about you? Has it been equally relaxing and refreshing?
Well, I come back from holiday 2 weeks ago, didn't I? So it's not
Yeah.
big as that, but still good. Actually, we went to London with the kids this week, and go to London a lot for work. Obviously, go most weeks, and usually it's a train trip, and then you go straight to the office, and you kind of take for granted, don't you? You're in this kind of amazing city. Actually, taking the kid was a way of almost reconnecting with our great city. So we've taken them to London before, but usually it's like to a museum and you're going direct there. And there's so much to see in London, isn't it? It's hard to know where to start with kids. But we thought we'd just do a few of the hot spots. So we went, past Buckingham Palace, went past Westminster, Big Ben, and then went to the very touristy, obviously, but we went to
Oh,
the Millennium, the London Eye,
great.
and then up to Blackfriars. So we did a bit of that tour, but it's really interesting just going around and you suddenly realise how grand and amazing the city is really when you see it through
Yeah.
the kids and these amazing things that they're looking at. So yeah, it was nice to do that again, just to look through kind of the eyes that maybe I looked through them when I was 7 or 8 years old when I first went to London, which was great. But I have to say, I've never been to any of those landmarks and seen it so busy.
Really?
As busy as it was on a Monday. It was just, I mean, they must be, it makes you realise how much tourism London generates when you see it.
Yeah. And what could you tell what nationalities were present
It
or predominant?
There's a lot of Americans actually.
Really? Yeah.
A lot of Americans and well, a lot of American accents, and there are quite a few lots of people from Japan, places like that. So yeah, bit of a mix. So I think it must be the day or the week when everyone jets into London to do the tourism thing, because you couldn't get close to Buckingham Palace, and you couldn't, and you were literally, just blocked in when you're walking down sort of the Waterloo Way. So it was very busy, which was hard with a 4 and a 6-year-old, but they loved it. So yeah,
Great. Good parenting. Well done.
I'll tell you what, though, it's expensive even when you're not doing something like just for the train fare. You realise how much money it costs, but that's another matter. And what have you been seeing this week, Paul, in the marketing sphere?
Well, you might think not so much because I've been on holiday, but I noticed a couple of things which really intrigued me just through conversations with friends. I was chatting to a couple of, basically they're friends who are small business owners, not tiny, but smallish. One is a sole practitioner. She's an architect. And she said to me, oh yeah, I'd be a good project for you because I don't do any marketing. And so I started asking her questions about her business. And I asked things like, do you have enough work? Yes. Do you have the right kind of work in terms of the nature of the work, the value of the work? Yes. And how do you get your work through recommendation? And her website is, I think, not been really changed substantially since it was built 10 years ago. But through conversation, it became pretty clear that she does do marketing. She offers a service that people value. They like the product. She works in a clearly defined local market, so her skills are relevant to the people in that area. Her pricing clearly is working because she's winning business and getting paid for it. And her reputation is generating new leads. Yeah. So I think beneath the surface, the 4 Ps of marketing are doing their job quietly, but almost without her appreciating it.
Yeah.
And then I was chatting to another friend who was a partner in an independent veterinary practice. And he was talking about the offer they have, how they seek to compete with the bigger multiple chain practices, and how they focus not just on treatment, but also on pet wellness and how you do preventative work, offering nutrition advice and even guidance for owners before they buy a pet as to what pet might work best for them. And I thought that's fascinating because that's really useful marketing based around a deep understanding of their consumers and their customers. So that got me thinking, there's two people I was chatting to, both of whom sort of kind of said we don't do marketing, but on closer inspection, I think they really do marketing. And I thought, as professional marketeers, our role isn't always, and perhaps you could argue is rarely, to deliver a dazzling, amazing new idea that completely changes the paradigm. I think it's more about taking existing thinking and making it more deliberate and perhaps improving the quality of the choices that are made about where to allocate resources, where to focus.
Yeah.
Thereby increasing the likelihood of success. And it made me think that marketing is less about making businesses do marketing, because businesses almost by definition are doing marketing, but more about helping businesses what they do already in a more knowing way, a more consistent way. So that was my takeout from those conversations over the last couple of weeks.
No, I really like that, because I've been talking to people about similar things actually. Actually, the value of marketing beyond what people think it is. So a lot of people think marketing is advertising or campaigns, right? Essentially, that's kind of the go-to of what people will think, I think, a lot of the time, if you're not kind of familiar or have trained up in it. But actually, the value of, like you said, the 4 Ps and the process you follow in a lot of marketing, some of it is very instinctive to a lot of people and they don't realize they're doing it, like you say already. And businesses do intrinsically do it. the thing is the value of having trained marketers to add even more value in regards to like the running of the business and how you can do things even better and efficiently is maybe missed a lot actually. So I totally agree with your point there around the way that marketing can potentially do more to help businesses do things even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
And as I said, I
mm,
think it's about taking something people do intuitively, putting
mm.
some structure around it so that the people who are doing that marketing can be more intentional about the choices they're making, where to allocate their investment.
Giving people the tools essentially to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something, well, is there no training, something could be offered to people to help them understand the kind of
Yeah.
essentials of marketing? Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? So that was me. Tell me about you, Warren, because you've not been in the holiday bubble. What have you seen that's been interesting over the last week?
No, well, this is it's a very recent one actually. So it's a government deal. I'm going to get political, but I'm going to
Hang on,
spin
hang
it
on.
on. We're not the rest is politics, not yet. But you would have seen Andy Burnham and the government have introduced, or they've brought forward something that Sir Keir Starmer introduced a few months back, which was around trying to stop companies introducing these bad discounts and
Mm.
also preventing companies from, what's the word you could use? Not tricking, but yeah, getting people on these long-term subscriptions. So you offer a free month to subscribe to X product and then you end up on a 12-month contract, essentially. It auto renews and you end up on a 12-month contract. And that is deemed to be a bit misleading by some of these companies. And actually, the government is introducing something to try and stop that. With bad discounts, it's slightly different in that you will see a lot of brands will have, you can do a sale, for example, of like a jacket, let's say, and you can buy the jacket, discount 50% off. It was £100, you can get it for 50 quid. But actually,
Mm.
what the business is that the jacket's always been 50 quid, but they've raised the price to 100 quid just before they then do the discount, so people think they're getting 50% discount. My question is though, is that a failure of marketing that these measures are having to be introduced? Because marketing tactics like that, really, you shouldn't have to introduce those if you're doing your marketing well and you're pricing things correctly, essentially. And actually, I would argue that those discounts and the way they're done and the subscriptions in particular actually are reducing trust and a feeling that companies or corporates are trying to rip you off or trying to take advantage of you, right? Which there is a lot of sentiment like that, I think, out there at the moment. And so I wonder actually that these tactics are actually a big failure of marketing. And actually the fact that government are introduced this, whether you agree with it or not, is actually a bit of a bad indictment on how marketing or marketeers or businesses, it might not be the marketing, they might be being overridden, are approaching pricing and the way they price their products. There's a strong argument that discounts anyway aren't a great way of providing value in your product anyway. Actually, getting your pricing right, first of all, is actually the key to marketing. You mentioned it first just a few minutes ago, Paul. Your 4Ps and price are essential. And so actually by discounting, you can be devaluing your products. If you look at a lot of these big brands like, the Chanels of the world, the higher value brands, they'll have specific strategies where they won't want to undermine the value of that brand. And that will include discounting and things like that. So they adopt that. They're obviously premium, but you could make an argument that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that anyway. So my thought is actually marketing needs to shape up in this area. I'll give you an example of something that happened recently to someone I know where they signed up for, they get food delivery every month, every week to their house. So from a big supermarket chain, and they pay for the monthly subscription fee to pay for that food delivery. I think it was a rolling contract for a couple of months at a certain price, £7 or something, I think, which actually is quite good value when you think it's £2 or £3 usually to get it individually for the delivery. And then they found out that they had been also renewed onto a 6-month contract to pay that £7 a month for the next 6 months after their first initial 2 or 3 months, I think, which they weren't aware of because an email had gone into their junk mail, essentially, which wasn't notifying them of the auto renewal, but I think it was an initial email. And then they ended up and had to get out of it. And actually, they did get out of it, but the whole process has actually meant that they're not going to shop with that supermarket anymore because they feel like they've been taken advantage of. So I just think actually it shouldn't need a government to come in and kind of put these measures in. Actually, I would argue that there's a detrimental effect in general in regard to trust, authenticity of what you're trying to sell.
Yes, I think you make a very good point. And I was thinking about this quite carefully as you were talking. And I recognize the problem you describe. I was thinking a bit about the cancellation issue. So we've all been through that loop when you want to cancel a service and it's a job to find the cancellation button. When you do find the cancellation button, it's, are you really sure it's another offer to persuade you not to cancel, or do you want to suspend? And then if you're really, really sure, and it can get very convoluted and you have to email somebody and it can be very, very difficult to just do a simple cancellation. And I agree with you. I think there is a short-term versus long-term view here. And I imagine that in the short term, whether that be a year, 2 years, taking this approach of making it difficult to cancel or rolling over subscriptions or auto-enrolling people after a trial period, I imagine that does bear fruit in the short term. But then I think you're right. In the longer term, it destroys trust and that destroys brand value and leads to exactly what you described, people choosing to take their business ultimately elsewhere. And I think it is an issue of trust. And I think as marketers, there's a necessity for us to stand up for the consumer. And because at the end of the day, all we're doing is seeking to meet their needs as best as we possibly can. And that includes making sure they've got the right service and not just locked into something they don't actually want.
This is something maybe we'll do a separate one on, but I wonder about the kind of approaches of marketing and the whole issue of honesty with, like you said, your consumer. And like you said, probably the point of marketing is to provide customers with what they need. And actually, there is something around being authentic and transparent with consumers about that process, right? And I think you're right, Paul. I think there's a job there for marketers. I suppose what I would say is maybe it's up to someone being brave and bold, new entrants into the market to approach that whole issue differently with subscription, so that actually gets the big players to start thinking about how they're approaching it. So you need someone with a long-term view that comes in and then changes things. And that's obviously how the market works, isn't it? When with these things. But I think there is, like you said, there's a lot of short-termism around in regard to how people are approaching this. If you look at these,
So
look at these, you ever bought a kitchen, Paul? There's always a sale on, isn't there?
Yeah. That's true. And we like offers, but they need to be genuine.
Yeah.
And I do think you're right. Marketing has got a bad name for some of those activities.
Yeah.
And the difficulty, of course, is that once you get a bad name, a bad reputation, it takes a lot of effort to overturn that. So yeah, I think there's an awful lot in what you say. And I think good on the government for championing the rights of the consumer, but good on those marketers who've anticipated that and realized that we're not just in it for the profit margin today, we're in it for the long run. And at the end of the day, we're in service of our consumers and customers. We're not looking to exploit them.
Totally agree. I mean, I'm interested in how the government will enforce this and make it happen. Be interesting to see how they do that, but that's another story. We'll see how that runs.
Yeah, see how it runs. Perhaps they'll come and chat to us. We will have some ideas.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? What are you up to the rest of the week, Paul?
Rest of the week, big focus over the next couple of weeks is essentially turning long sort of half-day training courses into short, sharp 1.5 hour, 2 hour learning experiences. That seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment. The temptation is to just try and squeeze everything into a smaller period of time, but then it just becomes cognitive overload on the learners. So what I'm trying to do is go through the longer form training courses across a variety of marketing topics, work out what really matters, work out what the participants need to understand, and then keep the kernel whilst making it digestible within an hour and a half. And this is where the 70-20-10 model is helpful. So for every hour and a half you spend on a training course, you've got to spend another 10.5 hours actually putting that into action to get the full capability build. So I'm working on that, and I think that's going to be very interesting to do. And it's nice because I have a deadline, because I then have to deliver that training in September, October. So that's my plan for the next week, amongst enjoying the sunshine. How about you?
I am working on some audience work. It's probably the culmination of a long project, actually, but we've developed some audience profiles that we're now looking to sort of embed a bit further and refine. So I am working with people across the organisation to try and embed that so that people start to use them and they become very core to the process of everything we do. So a lot of that is about making sure these profiles adhere to the things they need and making sure it's clear how they use them. Because I've done this work before, and sometimes you create these audience personas or these profiles and they sit in a cupboard and no one ever looks at them again. So the point of the process now for me is to make sure that doesn't happen and we make sure they're as useful as possible. So that's kind of that's what I'm working on the next few weeks, which I'm looking forward to.
Well, that'll be good. That'll be good. And I think, one of the things that occurs to me as I reflect after a period of relaxation is that it's great to be doing stuff, whether it's cycling in France or doing your persona work or modifying those training courses. And let's be focused on that stuff when we're doing it. But it's also good once it's done to take a step back and say, well, what did that mean, or what did I learn from that, or what are the insights I can take away and apply? So I think there's a lot of value in just having the mental space to do that, and that way we can grow and do better stuff in the future.
Yeah, I agree. You need time to reflect and work out what the things are you're doing right and wrong, and put things in perspective. And actually, a lot of the time, you don't give yourself time to do that, do you? You end up in a tunnel of just going from one thing to the next. So I think you definitely need that. Yeah. Great. Well, I look forward to hearing more about what you're up to in a couple of weeks, Paul.
Excellent. I will keep you informed, and likewise, I look forward to hearing how you've got on and what you've discovered in the meantime.
Great stuff. Love it. See you then, Paul.
Take care. Ciao.